since Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we're live.
Okay, you've been there since Tuesday. That's fantastic, man. So how does it like being a homeowner? What's broken? What do you got to fix already?
Nothing too much, honestly. It's a pretty new house. It's a 2015.
Oh.
So nothing is quite broken. Actually, we're having some problems with the fridge. We might have to replace that. But
Bastards.
yeah. But aside from that, I mean, I'm really happy, and it's not crazy big, but it'll be enough if we want like a kid or something.
Just a
kid
or something. He's like, a kid or a goldfish.
Where are you getting a kid or a dog?
Okay, can you educate all of us for why? By the way, guys, Tanner is filling in for Chris, and he's also filling in tomorrow and Thursday.
Yeah, they couldn't tell.
I'm letting Tanner know right now he's filling in tomorrow and Thursday.
He didn't mention Banks ones yet.
If he can make it tomorrow and Thursday.
So yeah, so hide your kids, hide your favorite positions, because Tanner's gonna shit on them all week.
Tanner, why'd you buy a new house at 25?
Because he's smart.
So we had the money. That was one. My girlfriend got quite a large promotion, so we wanted to go in on it 50-50. So that was part of it. So we wanted ownership. We didn't want to just rent. So we got a place. It's close to home. I'm very close to family. 1,500 square feet. Nothing crazy. But it's the start. That's
Tanner. Haven't you heard about the impending real estate collapse? Aren't you worried?
I'm not worried.
There you go.
I mean, it can happen. I'm not going to see it.
Are you selling this year?
Over and done before I'm out.
Selling this year or next year if it goes down?
No.
There you go.
No.
How
Honestly,
much?
I'm super happy. Hello from Toronto as well.
Tim
Compared
Hortons
to
in the house.
the value of your home, did you overpay? Was it priced reasonably? How was the market where you bought it?
I think I paid a fair price. Okay,
Right.
You want to tell us some details?
I paid $850,000.
Single family, two family.
It's a semi-detached, so I got a neighbor,
side. Right?
But just on the one side.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. What do you want to know?
What's the lot size?
I honestly I wouldn't even know.
Well, like, do you have an expansive front yard and a backyard? You have parking?
Yeah,
garage?
I mean, yeah, I've got like it's kind of weird. There's just a long driveway, enough for two.
Yeah, Tanner, what's your social?
Two cars. But then the way they did the landscaping is there's enough to put another car on the landscaping. So it's technically 3 cars, I'd say, and then the one garage, but we don't park in it. It's just full of crap that we don't want right now.
How close are you to the city?
About 45 minutes.
Okay, so it's a suburb, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you paid $630,000 US dollars, 850 Canadian.
$630,000 US dollars. What's the
He didn't use real money when he bought it.
Yeah, it's Canadian money.
$5 million dance dollars.
Monopoly money.
What's the neighborhood walkability score, and what are the schools like in that area for this kid or something that you might have at maybe?
Like so amazing. 10 out of 10 on those levels.
Oh, great.
That's
great.
smart.
So there's a park down the street. Nice, like just for our subdivision, nice water park and everything. It's freaking amazing. And I went there the other day. Like, I think it was on a Sunday or something. There must have been 40 kids there, just absolutely packed. So the neighborhood is really, really young. And they're all new schools around. It's all brand new, honestly. It's all like 2015, so it's really young area.
Sounds good. One mistake I made. I wasn't thinking about kids, but when I bought my house, I wasn't even married, first of all. But in Jersey City, the area we lived, even though the houses were appreciating, I couldn't send my kids to any good schools, so we had to do basically all private, which became completely expensive. So it was worth moving away from there and going somewhere else to find a place where there are good schools. So if you're going to have kids, that's smart of you to just find a good place
to know what the neighborhood is. So the real question is, so in the guest room that I'm going to be staying in, do I have my own bathroom, or am I going to have to get an Airbnb, or can I give you a 1-star review?
No, 3 bed, 3 bath. So you're good.
That's great. 1,500 square feet.
3 bed, 3 bath. Look at this guy. This guy's
bath.
living large.
Yeah.
While Amit, a business owner, is still living in the basement of his parents' house.
So this is technically a bedroom that I'm in as well right now.
So, Amit, when you see someone who's roughly the same age as you, who's moving on with the milestones of life, he's purchasing a home, he's being responsible, he's got a woman, long-time girlfriend, his woman makes money, if you can believe that, and they're talking about maybe having potential offspring. How does that land on you? How does that make you feel?
That's such a terrible thing to say.
How do you feel about
feel any of that
Amit?
social pressure?
I feel like I should go find a bridge, and I should.
No, but I'm curious. Are you at all sort of like, oh, maybe I should be doing some of this?
No,
Are you
I
thinking
mean,
that
look,
at all?
No, well, first of all, you know, I mean, I've talked kind of publicly about this, but I have two parents at home. I love those parents, and they are sick. You know, they've been sick for the past couple of months now. So, right. I mean, even if I could afford my own home, which if I really wanted to, and in terms of getting the down payment and all that stuff, I think I could. Yeah. If it's investment property, even if I house hacked it or lived in it, I would not want to be away from my parents right now. So, you know, Tannor is a different situation. So, I'm fine to be here.
I'm partially joking, but that is something that does move people towards that when you start seeing your friends do this. I mean, even for me, right? And when I moved to LA, 37 years old, I was living in a great apartment building. I loved it, but I'm like, I'm 37 years old, man. Like, I gotta get into a house. And I remember going on a date with a chick who said to me something like, "No women are gonna take any men seriously who don't have their own home." And it like on a first date, she said that to me, and I was like, there's something to that. So there's a bit of that social pressure that moves you on, like, even though it's absolutely
this date is over.
I was like, yeah, you're done. but it does. There is something to that.
That was my Dave Chappelle, by the way. Just FYI, that slap.
I'm sorry, Scott. You bring up Scott Killing. Everyone gets their.
Look what you did, Carlos. You made 32-year-olds feel bad now.
You're living in your parents' basement.
Hey, listen, if you're 32 and you don't have a house, it is time to consider seriously finding a house. Yeah, it is that time. You're not too late, but you shouldn't be waiting till you're 40 or 45. That's you're letting real estate market's going to keep going up, fellas. I don't know what you guys think. Even if there's some sort of correction, it's going to keep going up because people want to, like Tannor, want to live in nice places. And when they get some money in their pockets, they're going to buy some nice places. And they're going to keep...
What do you think Tanner's next house is going to look like?
It's going to be a fucking mansion.
What's your
next house?
Well, but the other thing about it...
All those SoFi gains, man.
the two things to consider are this. The earlier that you start home owning, the more time of your life you're spent putting that money into equity in an asset that you own. That's the first bit of it, right? The other thing that another friend of mine said when he bought his home, he was racing to buy his home before 35. He was just racing. He was like in his early 30s, just like Scott. And I was like, why are you racing so hard? And he's like, look, the average age of retirement is 65. So if you don't have a 30-year mortgage somewhere before you're 35, then you're going to be paying a mortgage still when you reach the age of average retirement. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And that was another thing too, that when I was getting close to 40, I was like, this now puts me at 70 years old, still paying off this home if I don't pay it off sooner. So
that's actually, I've never thought of it that way. I just always knew, even as a 20-year-old, I had to have my own house because but the way you put it is perfect because yes, if you actually want to retire at a reasonable age, 65.
With no
at 35, you better have that house. Like, absolutely. So whoever said that at 32, you got 3 years. You got 3 years.
You got 3 years. But it could take 3 years to find it,
Let me ask you two questions that are kind of concerning the audience, and then we'll move on to all the crypto news today. So two things. First one is
I'm enjoying this one.
Yeah, what happens if you and your girlfriend break up because you're not married? So that's the first one. And did that at all play a role in the decision? And second of all, I don't know how much you put down. I'll just guess you and your girlfriend put like $200K down. Is there any thought of like, yo, if we put $200K down and we opened up a Tim Hortons franchise or something, just giving you an example, a cash flowing business that is, we could reasonably pay off in some time, and we're actually
going to live while he's
hold on, let him answer it. Yeah, what do you think that is an idea you thought of, or the house and ownership, that was all you cared about?
Yeah, no, honestly. So yeah, I mean, if my girlfriend and I break up, we're just going to sell it completely and split it down the middle. We brought it up multiple times, both with the lawyer. I don't want any sort of problems or control. I just want 50-50. So we're just going to split both ways and go. And then on the next, your next question, I mean, yeah, I don't want a Tim Hortons perhaps, but in the markets, obviously, I have a lot of money in the markets. That's been my bread and butter. But then literally part of the reason why I bought this house was a Peter Lynch book One Up on Wall Street, where he says in like the first chapter, if you don't have house ownership, then you shouldn't be investing in the stocks. That's much more important. It is the biggest separator of wealth in America. So I forget what the level is, like the average homeowner to the average renter and what their savings is over time, but it's something crazy, like 70 times higher. And so it was a hit to my portfolio. I did actually make my entire down payment with house gains, which was quite exciting. But that being said, it's just something that I'm going to have to barrel through. I needed this as part of just the overall portfolio whenever I die, or like whenever I retire.
I do want to point out that even if he overpaid, by the way, he has to live somewhere. So imagine he's renting. How much is a rental? I'm curious in your area that you're looking at, just a monthly rental.
Honestly, I wouldn't know. Like
$2,500.
Well, a 3-bed. Forget about even 3-bed, 3-bath.
For this whole place, yeah, it'd probably be $3,000.
Okay, so $3,000 times 12, that's 36,000. That every year, it's not to him. So that's a big thing you got to consider. Even if you're overpaying for yourself in the future.
And VITALY, you agree that instead of opening up a franchise, he should definitely get equity on a house.
Oh yeah, if you don't have a house, in fact, I'm glad he brought up Peter Lynch. Exactly. So home ownership is one of those things that really will determine how wealthy you are in the future. Because if you can wait it out, I've never met anyone around at least my areas. Yeah, I'm talking about New Jersey, New York, that's lost money in real estate who's actually held it for longer than 6 months. I've never met anybody. No joke. No one. 0 people. So I think it's just a matter of time that Tannor is just a multimillionaire from his property.
Well, I don't know about a multimillionaire, but
if it's 850,000 right now,
like
you think in 30 years it's not multi-millions of dollars?
No, I mean potentially. I don't know what the rate of return I'm going to get on it, and I'm not really thinking about it. And then you also have to remember, I only own 50% of it, so I don't have an $850,000 house. I have
no. If you do get married, though, you can't think of it. I own 50%. If you are planning kids and all that, it's both of yours. That's it.
Right.
You know?
It's an asset for the family. The other thing to consider is,
and it's for your kids.
When you're trying to compare, say, opening up a franchise to have the cash flow. To VITALY's point, you still need to live. So unless you're making more money than what the business is making, plus the cost that you're paying to rent and pay mortgage for someone else's, you're not actually making any money. You're actually bleeding into your own gains by paying a portion of your income to someone else. You're paying a mortgage regardless. This is the thing. You're paying someone's mortgage. It might as well be your own. So my question for you is, does Canada have any of these like FHA programs where you don't have to put 20% down, or you had to put the full 20% down?
So we're allowed to go as low as 5%. We don't have it. I'm pretty sure FHA is 3%. If I don't,
3%, yeah.
Okay.
And Zillow's offering 1% loans now. That
only in Alabama,
but
Arizona,
no. But they're talking about doing a federal program to allow people
crazy.
to buy homes for 1% down. That's going to be ridiculous. But continue, Tannor.
I got extremely lucky with the interest rate. I work for a financial institution, so this played a great part. I'm not going to say what the interest rate was, but it was very, very good.
I called Anthony Noto and I was like, bruh, you see all my fucking videos, man? What's up with 1%?
But that being said, I did have to put down a sizable amount of down payment for them to want to do the deal.
What companies did you sell to put the down payment on?
Mainly just a portfolio cut. I did close a couple of positions, but I'm not gonna say.
It was so fun.
He's saying no comment.
It was fucking in video and it ran to 470. He's like, fuck this. I'm buying a house. I'm out of it.
I have not sold a share of Nvidia in the last like year and a half.
Smart guy here.
For that. Wow.
I sold all my Nvidia too early.
All right. So let's get into the main news of the day. Tannor, thank you for sharing all that stuff. Here we go. Tannor, you're going to get first digs at this. The U.S. Court of Appeals sided with Grayscale in a lawsuit against the SEC, which had denied the company's application to convert the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust to an ETF, which means we're likely getting the GBTC ETF. And this is what it did to crypto stocks. All of them went up pretty dramatically, including Bitcoin at 27,000. What was your first reaction as someone who is a pretty big bull on crypto?
Me?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was a bull on crypto.
He's definitely bullish on crypto.
I'm not a pretty big bull on crypto.
Amit's trying to be funny.
No, I genuinely thought you were like a Bitcoin maximalist. I thought you were.
It sounded sincere.
I do hold, definitely not a maximalist. I do hold Bitcoin. I hold Solana. I hold a little bit of Ethereum. But yeah, no, I was really, really pleased. I think this is the second big crunch after the Ripple Labs case. So it feels like sort of the crypto winter might be coming to an end. It's definitely a regulation winter, which bodes very well for Coinbase. I think that's the big thing that's holding down that stock right now is regulation. And now I'm really excited for a lot of fintech companies, not just I don't really want to bet just on the coins because I want to be betting on the fintech companies that I like that can also, sort of benefit greatly from some better regulations here. And I think it's sort of weird. I really want to have a conversation about this, but this sort of.
I was gonna recommend you do on your stock tank an episode on specifically either crypto or specifically Bitcoin, because I think that's would be good for your audience to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who would like. Do you have a person in mind that would do it?
You can get Benjamin Cowan. We've been trying to get him. You get Benjamin Cowan.
You can get Carlos. Carlos can talk about Bitcoin.
Or me and VITALY can come on there and preach the Bitcoin, the crypto gospel. But anyway, regardless, continue.
I was just going to say obviously with Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC, that his big thing, at least in the way that I see it, is protecting U.S. currency. If you're trading on Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like this, that you're not trading in U.S. dollars and you could be doing things off of that currency, it's not good for the U.S. If you're trading in stable coins like USDC, it's a different story. It's still under, U.S. dollars. But that being said, it's kind of really exciting, in my opinion, seeing how the courts are upholding the actual laws here and allowing things like Grayscale to be able to convert over to an ETF, which will unlock a lot of gains for the people that, actually did enjoy the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. I think they said there's going to be about an $8 billion gain just switching over to an ETF right away. So
I just want to point out that nothing was approved. The judge just said you have to look at it again. So Gensler might keep postponing this and align perfectly with a Bitcoin halving. Like that would be the best
scenario is that they finally approve it on what's the day? Let's bring up. Yeah, I'm gonna
when's the Bitcoin in 2024? Right, sometime in April, May. Is that the halving?
So what I think is going to happen is that there's other spot ETFs that were actually much more transparent than the way Grayscale had done it. At least from what I was reading, like BlackRock and Fidelity were also going to be doing.
Can you share that, Amit?
Sorry?
I'm saying just share this, Amit, while Tanner's talking. Counting down the seconds.
I think this will happen in weeks, not 200 days. I honestly think that
you
Bitcoin.
Think it's gonna move that fast?
What do you mean weeks? Isn't it objectively happening at a certain time? There's like.
No. He has to review it again. That's
spot
the only
ETF approvals.
Oh, the ETF. Yeah. Oh, I thought.
But the ruling is not to approve ETFs. The ruling is just to make sure to look at it again and not be dicks about it, because the futures ETFs were passed and the spot ETFs were not passed. And it's like, well, you're being arbitrarily mean to the spot ETF guys.
Spot guys.
So as soon as that changes, but that could still take months or a year, probably when the
hopefully it takes 213 days, 13 hours, and 40 minutes.
Yeah, imagine it's like 30 days before that. That's
like
the alignments of these things.
We might get we might get the cycle peak on the day of the halving.
Yeah. Either way, Bitcoin is in a great position for the long term. So anyone who's Amit, you should be paying attention to these things, these movements happening. That this is setting up for like at least 2025 being massive for crypto.
I don't know if you've been watching the chat, Vitaly. A lot of people saying Bitcoin still has no value. It's still
I haven't.
junk.
I didn't
it's still
see.
This. And
I don't know. It's bought me a lot of things. It got some value to me.
But look, I feel like I've been the broken record on that. Can you give a 30-second on why it does have value?
Oh, you want me besides speculation?
Vitaly's not the good 30. Vitaly's loves the
speculative
value of Bitcoin. He doesn't.
Well, no. I do have my thesis on it, but look, I know it's a speculative asset, and I'm also betting on the speculative nature of it, that people will end up buying it as adoption gathers. So I think that's happening. But in the meantime, I can't speculate on it that it will run up and then it'll crash again. That's probably still going to happen. But for Carl, to answer Carlos's question, it's very simple. I do think for generation, whatever we're called, X, Y, Z, I don't even know, millennials, I think they don't want to buy gold bars. I think they don't want to buy gold ETFs. I think they want to buy Bitcoin and crypto assets eventually. So I think Bitcoin and Ethereum just have a future because young people understand digital stuff better. And I'll give you a perfect example. My kids are super young, right? They're 10, 9 years old. and they have no problem spending thousands of dollars and buying Robux and buying what is that other game that people play? Fortnite. Like literally, I shell out so much money. They already agree that there's value in the metaverse or whatever, like whatever you want to call it. There's value there in Web 3.0. So the minute they can buy Bitcoin, they'll get it. It's not going to be a problem, especially if it's in your Fidelity and your TD Ameritrade. It'll just be part of the portfolio. There'll be some percent allocation immediately, like 5% allocation, and crypto will go to the moon just based on that alone.
Well, I agree. The younger generation is much more comfortable buying and holding virtual assets. Even if you look at the DLC content of anyone that plays video games on Xbox, the amount of money that they can charge you to simply give you a new car in a in a racing game in Forza, or a new outfit, or a new sword in freaking Fortnite. People see value in this.
My kid buys all of these clothes. I'm like, clothes. Why are you buying clothes? Even I don't get it. I don't get that part, but he understands it. He like intrinsically, he doesn't mind spending digital currency on buying clothes in the Web 3.0, whatever.
Yeah. And because that digital currency, some of it was underpinned by physical currency.
Yeah, it's the same thing as buying clothes in real life. It's your status symbol. It's how you want to present yourself. It's
So it's harder for older people. I don't know why Amit can't understand this, but it's harder for older people. I get it. Like my father still doesn't understand why Bitcoin has any value, but everyone's
just leave that up for the rest of the entire video. Just leave that comment up for the rest of the podcast. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Vitaly.
Well, so I'm saying it's obvious for anyone young. Like it's not, if you look at young people, what they're doing, and I'm old and I'm looking at young people, what they're doing, my kids, it's obvious they're going to be buying Bitcoin by themselves. I don't have to buy them any. They're going to just buy it by themselves as they get older. I
agree with you guys. I don't disagree with your thesis on Bitcoin. I'm just not buying Bitcoin 30 grand. Too much.
Well, I'll explain it to you this way, because again,
I might buy a little bit of it, like $1,000, but I'm not buying a whole Bitcoin.
Well, actually, I was.
You've been saying that for a while. You still haven't put $1,000 into Bitcoin?
No, I have not.
I have texted. I was texting with a buddy of mine earlier that was talking about the same thing, because when he saw the news, and we were saying, like, that there's they call these people whole coiners. Whole coiners are people that actually hold an entire coin of Bitcoin. Most of the retail people don't even have, and they're not whole coiners. The actual percentage of people that hold an entire Bitcoin is actually really small. But if you think about it, how many people have $30,000 in any one particular stock, right? It's relatively small. So it doesn't really matter whether you have a whole coin or not. I mean, that's why you have to lose the idea of a coin is equal to a share. Like we talked about Melly yesterday, their stock prices, whatever, thousands of $1,500, right? But you can do fractional investing, and it'd be the same thing. The multiple's still the same. If it 5x's, your investment 5x's.
Yeah, no, I get that, but that's why I would only put $1,000 in it, because look, if Bitcoin goes to 100,000, as you say, that's a 3x from here. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, hold on. We're saying in the recent term, in the next 3-4 years, it should go to 6 figures. Okay, even if it gets close, who cares? It gets to 80,000, whatever. The point is, if this is valuable and ETFs come out and people start investing in it, there's only 21 million, probably more like 16 million, because a lot has been lost. Burnt. So you're talking about that it should be worth way more than $100,000 if you just do the math and extrapolate that everyone needs a percentage in their portfolio. If that does happen, the bull case is massive. Like, it's ridiculous. But these numbers are gargantuan. 100,000 is stupid. That's going to mean nothing. No joke.
Yeah, but this is where we get super subjective, right? Like, 100,000, I can't even believe right now. I don't even think you guys actually.
Why not? We were so close. We were.
I definitely believe 100,000.
We were so close when interest rates were 0. I mean, like, a lot of things have to happen.
But wait, we were so close when interest rates were close to 0. But how much money did they print? They printed $8 trillion. There's now another $8 trillion aside from what was taken out of the markets that's ready to come in. You just saw on the announcement of them maybe possibly approving the spot Bitcoin ETF. It went from 25,000. It jumped up almost $2,000-$3,000. That's several billions and billions of dollars.
I get it.
I just don't understand why you think that the money isn't there to push Bitcoin to $500,000.
Because to me, Bitcoin operates just like a growth stock. It is not a hedge. It is not inflate. It is the same thing as Palantir. When Palantir goes up, Bitcoin will go up. When SoFi goes up, if that's the case,
that is
I like knowing what SoFi's financials are.
Well, hold on. You're right about the risk off, risk on. Hold on. You're right about the risk off, risk on thing. You're right. Bitcoin crashes when it's risk off, risk on. People get back into it, but the amount of money that can move into Bitcoin doesn't need much to move it in very fast. That's the difference. Palantir actually needs more money. Bitcoin doesn't. It's just not the same thing in terms of, you're right. You can't look at the cash flows of Bitcoin. It doesn't exist. So it's in that case, it's speculative. It's gonna find its whatever price it's gonna land on. That's probably 30 years from now, dude. And I mean, I can't even imagine where it's going to be at that point.
But if it goes to 100K, it's a 3x, which is cool. I think SoFi can 3x in the same time. So what am I really investing in it for? Because I missed the
no. Okay, so somebody said I didn't answer the question. It's like it's gold. People don't want to invest. Old people still invest in gold. Young people want to invest in something else that's stable, right? An inflation hedge or 2% of their portfolio, 5%, whatever you consider right. Bitcoin is that thing. We can discuss Ethereum as well, but Bitcoin is that thing that they will invest in. It'll be part of the portfolio. Now imagine an asset that everybody in the world, 5% of their portfolio can hold.
Can you answer to me why Tesla and SpaceX sold off their entire position?
I want to make it.
That doesn't matter.
That definitely matters, bro. This whole idea of holding it.
It doesn't matter if one investor sells something and another investor holds. That is never, ever held up.
Well, actually, no. I think it matters if one of the most innovative companies in the world says, we don't want this on our balance sheet anymore. We're going to it says something about the overall legitimacy.
People sold off Amazon during this last crash. Big guys, so who cares? I mean, they were wrong. I mean, sometimes
I just think everyone's so excited for it to get to 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. And what if it doesn't?
It's going to. This is not.
What if it doesn't?
There is no. In my world,
I can argue how Palantir gets to $50. There's a lot of numbers I have to go through. I can't argue how Bitcoin gets there.
Okay, but there's
just like maybe.
But once again, it's like you saying I can eventually get to LA on my bike, so it's better than a car. They're just not the same thing. They're different modes of transportation.
I have no idea how that analogy makes sense.
Because Bitcoin is not a stock; it is a currency.
That's my point. I have no way to know. You guys are just screaming.
No. Hold on. I'll give you
even look at
math.
the comments. Even look at the comments. B. Martin. It is a currency that cannot be inflated. Do you understand that?
I get that. That part makes sense to me. I'm saying I missed the run up. I missed that run up from $300 to 30,000. And so,
look, you're not getting your 20x right now. That's not happening right now. So I understand what you're saying.
So if I'm investing for a 3x, I'd rather put that money in SoFi.
So once again, a 3x is like that's the bare minimum, dude. So this is what we're trying to say.
I'm not saying a 3x is bad.
I want you to take a look at why. Okay, if people do adopt. So once again, it's one of those adoption things, right? Just like Enphase or Tesla. If people adopt these things, so Bitcoin is worth right now market cap of $537 billion. And if you look at Apple, which is worth $3 trillion, what do you have, a 6x for it to be just worth one company in the U.S. stock exchange? One company? Are you serious? This is supposed to be a currency that everybody in the world is supposed to have at some point. So if there is some allocation, allocation of 1% or whatever, Bitcoin should be a 6x. Okay, minimum.
When is the 6x happening?
Well, I'm not going to give you time.
Myra Singh's point. What is any currency backed by? It is backed by just consumer confidence.
I'm not arguing about the US dollar being better or anything. I'm just saying.
No, but it's this idea that Bitcoin isn't backed by anything. Look, at the end of the day, right? It's like it is right now a speculative, volatile asset. As the market cap increases, it will grow into the perfect store of value. And that's what it needs is a higher market cap. And it is trending in that direction. And like Vitaly said, 4 billion Bitcoins are basically burnt. They can never be traded because they're just gone. The keys are gone, whatever. The computer, the hard drives that stored them are gone. There's only 21 million Bitcoins. 19 million of them have been mined already. So we have a majority of the supply is already out there. Since it can't be inflated, do you understand that it can't be inflated. So all the new money that comes in is divided among the circulating supply. That's not the same as a company that can easily split its stock.
I understand that. That makes sense.
Stocks. So when you try to compare it to say Palantir could go to $50 and then they could split the stock. They could dilute you.
Correct.
That it does not happen in Bitcoin. There's no one that can do that. Its price is decided by what someone's willing to pay and who's willing to hold. Plus, it also has a built-in churn because the miners themselves are paid in Bitcoin and they need to sell Bitcoin to fund their operations. These halving events are designed to cause the miners to slow or stop their selling, which allows the price to inflate because they're not going to sell knowing that they're going to be basically getting half of the reward in 250 days.
Oh, look, Carlos, all of these arguments make sense. The problem is I am not one of those people that believes hyperinflation and like the American dollar is dying, blah, blah, blah. So I'd rather buy Robinhood and get my exposure.
You don't have to believe it, though.
No,
I don't want to own the actual Bitcoin. I'd rather own proxy plays that benefit off of that. I can still see their cash flows.
Yeah, no, that's bad, by the way.
The only reason you really need to hold Bitcoin is if you think the U.S. economy is going to shit. And like that's
wrong. That's wrong. Hold on. I just want to say,
share my screen, by the way. Share my screen.
Because if it's about returns, if we're not talking about ethics, We're not talking about like freedom. We're talking about returns. I don't want to hold something this volatile at 25 years old when I've already got other volatile stuff to
25
worry
years
about.
old.
So like I'd rather hold other volatile stocks, not Bitcoin, that I have no sense of in terms of really understanding.
He's like, at 45, I'll hold Bitcoin when it's $1 million.
Right. I'm going to put my
If
$1,000
it gets
into
to $1 million,
Bitcoin,
you're
it's
so
$1 million.
confident it's just going to go up. And I'm
No,
like,
look,
I don't
look,
know.
But Amit, the biggest problem is like saying, oh, I'd rather hold SoFi or I'd rather hold Robinhood is some of the biggest problems. Because if you just say, oh, it would be much easier to get a 3x in SoFi, well, is there a stock that you can get a 4x that's more likely than SoFi? Like maybe DNA might get you a 6x or whatever. And then if that's
Yeah,
the
but then
case,
we have a
if you're
debate. Then we get to actually have a conversation. With Bitcoin, you're just telling me it's going to go up versus with SoFi, I can look at the balance sheet and all that stuff.
I think it's a part of a portfolio that you hedge into, right? So
Which is why I said I'll throw $1,000 into it. But outside of that, I don't.
yeah, if that's the percent of your portfolio that you want in it, then that's fine, right? But some people want a heavier percentage, and I don't just think that it's just basing on what has the highest possible return, or else
Wait,
they're
why
most
else
likely
would you
have
invest
very
in
high
Bitcoin
risk.
then?
Can you bring
if
up
it's-
Dex's comment?
Yeah.
Bro, your whole port is
Yeah, but the thing is,
options.
I can understand those positions, those stocks, right? They
But
make sense.
Bitcoin is
But here's my
volatile.
thing: why would you invest in Bitcoin if it's not for the return?
There's two reasons
Well,
why.
Because if you're going to give me some argument about the US dollar dying and all this stuff, even VITALY doesn't believe that
No,
shit.
no, no. I
It's
don't.
not
So
that
if that's the
but
reason, it's only
understand.
a speculative.
No, but
point.
understand.
Like,
No one is saying that the US dollar is dying. But what we are saying is that it's going to get harder to get returns in USD because the currency is devaluing.
I disagree. You
inflating.
invest in the right companies.
No. The actual value is inflating. When we buy stocks right now, the reason why you invest your fiat currency into something that is increasing in value is to counteract the inflation. So say, for example, if the US dollar, say it inflates 7% per year.
It's not doing that though.
But I'm just saying, if it inflates 7% per year, that's actually a 7% hit to your portfolio.
I get it, but
right?
you can't make that stretch because we were at 9% in June. Now we're closing in on almost 2%, under 3%. Like
I'm
we've
thinking
been
year over
actually,
year.
yeah,
No, I'm saying
Jack
Amit,
Dorsey
Amit,
said 5 months ago we would have hyperinflation. That
hold on.
hasn't happened.
You're treating this like it's one thing or another.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't have my whole portfolio in Bitcoin. I'm saying it's a part of a portfolio, just like real estate is, by the way. I own real estate too. We don't talk about it all the time, but I have real estate.
No, I agree. But
crypto,
VITALY, you
I have some
have a
equities.
part of your portfolio in Bitcoin because you care about the returns. Carlos and Tannor are trying to tell me you should actually hold it because they're afraid of the U.S.
No,
economy
I'm
collapsing on
in
the
it
dollar.
completely.
I disagree with that. I don't think
No,
the
I'm
fiat
in it for the
currency is going to
return.
die.
It is
I'm in
about
it for the
returns. It is about returns, but part of the return is like, for example, if US dollars, like Trueflation, by the way, just cranked up the expectations for inflation up to 2.7%. I think it was at its lows like 2.3 or whatever.
Yeah.
So 2.7 is heading back up potentially. If that's the case, Bitcoin is separate from this. So if, for example, just because the US dollar is inflating, that is actually pushing up the value of the
No, it's not.
Bitcoin.
No,
yes,
it's not.
Yes, it does.
No, it's not
It
because
does.
Bitcoin was at its lowest in the past 4 years when inflation was at its highest. You guys
Yes,
cannot.
wait.
But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That's because the drought in Bitcoin, in terms of people actually wanting that asset, was lower than what the inflation
Wait,
was.
hold on. But why didn't they want it more when we were having 9% inflation in June 2022?
The same reason why people didn't want gold. People didn't feel like betting on an alternative asset, but that doesn't mean that historically it hasn't been a good safety hedge against inflation. Gold is it's the new gold. It's digital gold.
When has it?
No.
when has
Hold on.
Bitcoin been a
Amit,
safety hedge against inflation?
you're right about that. In that time, it was risk off. But the thing is,
Yeah.
it returned pretty quickly. It didn't stay at those lows, by the way. It didn't stay there long. So the people who did not get it at the 14,000, it went up to 30 pretty fast. So my point is that it
But
recovers
so did
pretty
stocks.
fast.
So did stocks.
But
In a year, it came to 30,000. So did
Look,
Tesla.
once
but you
again, you're
understand-
saying it's either or. I'm not saying it's either or.
No, I'm not arguing with you, VITALY, on that. You and I are in agreement. I'm arguing with these two guys that are telling me you own Bitcoin because you're afraid of the US dollar collapsing.
No, but you're not.
Fundamentally
You're not. You're
not afraid of the US dollar
I'm not
collapsing.
saying that. I am not
I'll
saying.
be long
that.
dead. I think
I'm
they'll
not saying
both
that
of
the
these
US
guys-
I'll be
dollar
dead
is-
too. That's why I don't give a fuck.
Okay, but I just want to make a point here because you keep saying this and it's not true. I'm not saying that the reason to hold Bitcoin is because the US dollar is collapsing. What I'm saying is as they print more fiat, look, I've said it before, there's an infinite amount of fiat to buy a finite amount of Bitcoin. That is a great like bumper sticker way of looking at this. As they continue to print US dollars, which they can print at any time, the value of the circulating supply goes down. Inherently, it goes down. You see this reflected in the prices that we're paying for our goods and services. You see this in the prices that are reflected in our housing. This is why those prices go up. They go up. If you're holding the asset, in other words, if my house value doubles, right, it's because it will take twice the amount of fiat currency to purchase the same home, like for the value of what you're getting. That should tell you something.
It tells me nothing. What you're doing a basic you're doing like a textbook argument about inflation, supply and demand, and all of it makes sense.
But that's how all.
But the problem is none of it's happening in the real world, because when inflation was at its highest in 40 years, Bitcoin went down to 14.
That is capitalism runs on supply and demand. That is the law of markets, supply and demand.
Yeah, but there's also a big ass military in capitalism called the United States of America that is the reserve currency of the world, because even if everything's inflating, everyone's still going to use the dollar. Like, and until that changes, I don't see your thesis. When that changes,
you're confusing the idea of American dominance.
Yes.
And like no one's talking about the non-dominance of the US dollar. What I'm showing here on screen is that during this time that the US was still the main big dog, the dollar was inflated away. Okay. And during that time, if there was a Bitcoin back in 1913 or whatever, there would still be the same outstanding 19 million Bitcoin in supply with a total of 21 million. Okay. What would the price of Bitcoin be if started back then, holding on to today?
It's funny. We actually know
that in gold.
Yeah, just look at gold. Can you bring up the gold chart when the ETF and everything happened?
Oh, that was
real quick. I have a question here. So let me ask, and this might be a really stupid question. I'm honestly.
Tanner, are you bringing that up?
This might be a stupid question.
Maybe.
So Tanner, you're saying if we had 21 million Bitcoin from 1913 to now, what would the price be? Probably, millions of dollars or something.
Yeah.
My understanding, and again, this might be totally naive, is the reason we also print money is because we have a bunch of people in the United States that didn't get rich off Tesla or Bitcoin or whatever, and they need food stamps, and we need to spend in order to have a healthy society. Is there any argument here for the reason we have fiat currencies? Because we need to be able to print to literally give dollars to people.
But you're still on the case of this is replacing US dollars. I'm not saying it. I'm saying it's a good hedge on US dollars.
It's just one of the things. Tanner, it's not the only thing. It's one of the things.
Yeah. And
my point is, the reason the dollar is inflated that much is because we printed a shit ton of it to also pay for stuff.
Okay, so you have to go. You
some of that stuff we needed to pay for. Like
no.
People could have paid for. People could have paid for the same goods and services with the existing supply. But what happens is the only power that money has in our society is when it moves. Every time money moves, it becomes a taxable event, right, for the government. This is a really important thing to look at. I brought it up before, but like really take a look at this, because this goes to Vitaly's point. My point is the U.S. government printed all that money because they needed to give people money to spend, because only when money moves does it have any real power. And that's what creates taxable events. If everyone holds on to all of their money and I never pay anybody, or I never go to the store, then state governments and local governments don't get to charge sales tax. If I don't buy gasoline, then they don't get to charge gas tax. Do you understand? That's what allows. That's why you need.
But Carlos, let me ask you a question then. So when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed and the U.S. printed, I think, $400 billion to deal with the banking crisis, is your argument the U.S. should not have printed those $400 billion? I
mean, you get into like moral, ethical, and legal things. No, I don't.
No, because this really matters. Because if your argument is like that's the reason why Bitcoin's important because we keep printing the shit out of the dollar, my counter argument is sometimes we need to print so that the whole fucking economy doesn't collapse, like what would have happened in March if we didn't print 400 billion. Tanner, any thoughts on that?
Okay, but what you're saying, what you're saying is a bunch of people acted irresponsibly.
Which I agree, and lock them up. Whatever. But let me finish. We still can't let the economy collapse.
But let me finish. A bunch of people acted irresponsibly, and so we're going to come in and dilute the rest of the existing currency. Everyone else in America and basically everyone else in the world that has it as a reserve currency, we're going to do that, and to fix the problem that a bunch of irresponsible actors did, 100%. diluting the existing supply and incentivizing others to do the same thing. No,
because Roku had 400 million in Silicon Valley Bank, and a lot of people work at the Roku company own Roku stock, and if Roku collapsed,
what happens in a society? It's the same thing in California. They stopped prosecuting people that steal, and because of other reasons.
Carlos, I get, but I'm talking about on a large scale. Like what happens with like during COVID? Should we not have printed some money to help people when they were? You can argue about stimulus.
But there's two different. But the problem is you're talking about two different things, right? Yeah. It's not a gray area because if we were just talking fiscally, okay, just pure money right now, okay, or monetarily, sorry, absolutely they should not have done any printing. Quantitative tightening would have been much better for the dollar in every essence, but then quality of life goes down. So this is why we can't just Volcker our way through the markets, because yes, they would be good if you were an economist, but if in terms of a socialist, like how are people living day to day, that makes things harder. Okay, so people's jobs are not just how can we make this economy as strong as possible. No, it's balancing 1,000 different things, and that's why it makes it so hard in order to push any sort of policy. But I don't even think that's part of the problem.
I don't know why you guys think the
my
dollar is so full of
last
shit when like we do have to print it sometimes.
No,
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. But you're talking about, there's a difference between what's good for the American people and how to get yourself financially rich, right? Is it smart as an investor to hold 30 homes? Yes. Is it not good if a bunch of investors hold all of the homes and everyone else rents? Like, you're talking about two different things. It would be great if everyone could own a home.
Well, I agree. That's why I'm on the VITALY side, which is like a portion, $1,000 bucks.
No. If you
But
were
I'm
on
not
my
on your
side,
guys'
hold on.
side.
Let me say something. If you were on my side,
Bitcoin.
you'd be smart enough, just practically smart enough to see the things that are happening around you. The ETF is coming.
I agree
at
with
some
all that.
point.
I agree with all
Bitcoin adoption has gone more mainstream in the last decade. It's just obvious. These signs are everywhere. So if you see these signs and they're happening, it's like solar panels on a house. I see them. Another guy says that'll never happen. I'm like, well, I just saw
I
another
agree, which
house
is why I
with
would
it.
speculate on buying some Bitcoin.
Well,
off
that's
these
fine,
macro
but
things,
then you
but
should
not
just
because
put
I'm
it
afraid
part of your
fiat
portfolio.
currencies will die.
Hold on,
That's
that's fine. But then you put it part of your portfolio. But you're not even arguing it. It's like I'm doing $1,000. Like you have 20,000 in options plays on Robinhood. You have, so what's $1,000 on Bitcoin?
It's $5,000.
The other part, the main comeback to what you're saying about like printing, right? We have to print sometimes to stimulate the economy. Look at the effect of that now. Look at how many people are being displaced. Look at just the small rise in prices are basically forcing people out of their homes. Look at the pain that has caused just by deflating the economy, by deflating the currency by that little bit. And I would argue that remedy was way more painful than what it was trying to avoid in 2020, 2021. Okay. And now I agree. Now we have $8 trillion new dollars that are out there, and we have millions of people that are being displaced. It had massive repercussions on real estate, had massive repercussions on the job market. So what was the net benefit? What was the net benefit? Now we can argue about whether or not we should have been locked down, whether there should have been stimulus, whether the government was honest to us about that all day, right? But I'm just saying, if that was the plan, I think what Tannor was saying is correct. Suffer through it in the short term. Suffer through it. Don't inflate the currency, because then once you get out of it, once we declare that COVID is over and we can all go back to work, the financial conditions would have been exactly as they were before in 2019.
First of all, you can't suffer through something like that. Yeah, if the government didn't step in, I think we would be in a massive depression if they didn't step in. The problem is they stayed too long. That was the issue. But they had to step in.
It's a crazy balancing act, and I don't think like anyone here, at least I don't want to speak for you guys, but I don't think anyone's saying there's going to be any collapse of the U.S. dollar.
Yes, don't quote us as saying that. I'm not saying that.
Yep,
it's inaccurate.
But just overall, part of the policy is to slowly inflate that dollar, because it helps us keep our position and it makes debt stay down, right? Debt does not like an inflating market because you're still owed what you're owed.
Tannor, what percentage of your portfolio is Bitcoin?
Hold on. One thing I didn't say before is like
very low percent, the dollar, like less than 1%.
Probably less than. I don't even know if it's 1%.
So, Amit, I just want to make sure that the way this country
like I said,
works,
I'm not a Bitcoin maximus, Amit. I said I'm not a Super Bowl. I'm just,
1%.
I am bullish.
He's a little baby bull with like one horn.
Yeah, I am long Bitcoin. I hold a position in Bitcoin. That's what I'm telling you.
So I want to just point out the way debt works in America and everywhere, by the way, is that money is created through debt. Okay, there is nothing separate from it. Okay, we literally create money because of debt and for debt. Look at the dollar. Did you ever guys read what it says in the dollar?
In God we trust.
No,
besides
this note is back. Whatever.
legal tender to pay off all debt. Anyway, the whole
Wait,
point
really?
of
$1?
yeah.
Yes,
Hey,
and bring up, and while you're doing that, bring up
the-
Heinze Ketchup's comment at 441 because I
the
wanna
whole
see what
point
the comment
of,
is about.
Sorry, guys, I have too many dollars. I have to.
Oh, we've
the whole
got
point of
dollars.
inflation, by the way, is it's gonna be in any fiat currency, is because you need to keep printing it to pay off debt. Has nothing to do with paying for food stamps. By
On
the
the
way,
left
that's an
side, on the
idiotic
left
comment.
side, what does it say there?
This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private.
Debt.
It's all from debt. Everything.
Yeah.
Every
You
dollar
guys
is
know
from
you can
debt.
make 9/11 on a $20 bill. Have you guys seen that?
Yes,
That's
we've
the real
seen that.
conspiracy. We should be. That's
But to just underscore Vitaly's
Elsa says
point,
in God we
to
trust.
underscore Vitaly's point, okay, when the government needs money, the money printing, the act of money printing automatically creates more debt than the actual amount that they borrowed, because the only currency that can be used is the US dollar. You borrow it from the Federal Reserve. If I borrow $10 million from the Federal Reserve, there's a debt attached to that. There's a rate. Say it's 5%. So now I borrow $10 million from the Federal Reserve, the US government does, to fund its operations, and then needs to pay that back, the 10 million plus the interest.
No,
Where
I
does the
agree,
money-
and we're
where
going to
does
pay
the
like
money
400 billion
come?
in interest.
Where
on our
does the
debt
money
this year.
come to pay? Where does the money come to pay the interest on the debt that you borrowed from the Federal Reserve?
We got to print
You have
it,
to
and that's a
borrow-
problem.
You have to borrow more money.
It's not a problem.
And that money comes with more interest. Bring up Heinze Ketchup's comment at 441 because this is
Heinze
essentially.
Bring up Heinze Ketchup. He's the
Bring
one
up
who's
Heinze
gonna teach us
Ketchup. He's got a great
everything.
point. That guy.
There's an amazing.
He says, if Carp said we will do share dilution forever, I think people will hate it. If people hate this, you should hate money printing. That is exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Money
but a
printing
country
is
needs
shared
to print money,
dilution.
Carlos. It's not a fantasy world.
But you keep saying that without proving why. We've just told you the million reasons why.
COVID. If we didn't print some money, we would have, like, as Vitaly said,
Look, once again, well, we do have to print money, by the way, because we're in a fiat monetary system. We do have to print money.
Well,
That's
you
just the
have
bottom
to
line.
you have to pay off the interest on.
Yes. So
the
I'm
debt
saying
you
we're in
borrow.
that system already.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
but the point is that leads to hyperinflation. It's
Yeah, well, we
inflating no
accelerate.
matter what.
Where is this hyperinflation? Where is like
Did
when
you
is
see the chart Tanner brought up?
Well, hold on.
Did
At
you
some
see?
point, you got to
no,
realize
because
at some
things have
point,
changed over the 100 years.
Hold on,
So
but
we-
but hold on. But if you had invested those dollars, why do you think a lot of these boomers,
so
baby
if you
boomers-
invested in
Wait, hold on.
1913, you'd be dead. It doesn't matter.
Hold on. If you
Aztec
had
is right. I didn't
invested
get
in
my
the
money
stock
yet for the
market,
super
if
chats.
you had invested in the stock market and started to roll that over a generation, this is how you create generational wealth. If you had invested in companies in the 40s, 50s, and 60s and locked in essentially that asset and it continued to grow in value. See, if you're holding the asset and it's not, if you're holding the dollar and it's not in an asset, the inflation is lowering the purchasing power of that dollar. If your dollar are transformed or transported into an asset, you are, as it inflates, your asset is gaining value. That's the
So
difference.
invest in stocks.
As a lot of people say, 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, right? Like the whole idea being that your $1,000 back in the day is not $1,000 anymore.
Yeah,
So-
but yes, obviously, because of what Carlos said. But that doesn't matter because, like, the economy changes, the world changes. We have to have a healthy society. That's why I think if you're buying Bitcoin, it's to speculate. It's not because we're getting into hyperinflation. Like,
Okay, but the
hyperinflation
Tanner's
doesn't happen.
point. But the
It's
Tanner's
also
point.
a bet on let's say your money is inflating away at 2% per year, okay? And you're keeping your money in a savings account that doesn't even bring you in 2%. Right now, that's very inflated right now.
Right.
But
Yes.
before, savings accounts weren't even doing that. So your money was actually going down in real spending dollars, okay? In terms of what you could buy.
But then you should have put your money, you shouldn't be on cash. You should have real estate, you should have stocks, you should have an asset.
Right, but that's why financial advisors push those products, but it doesn't mean that everyone follows that. But
Sure.
another alternative to that investment class would be Bitcoin. 1 Bitcoin equals 1
But you see how
Bitcoin.
you said alternative investment class? It's something to invest in. It's not like, oh my God, I have to hold this because hyperinflation. It's like, yeah, you don't want to have your dollars inflating away. Just like no one wants to have their, so you invest in stocks, real estate. Sure.
So one exciting thing about Bitcoin though is it does lead to some utility, like making cheaper efforts in the ability to do remittances. Right? There's no cheaper way than to send someone money overseas.
Sure, but Tanner, you know how you said alternative assets like Bitcoin? That then to me becomes a game of returns. If it's stocks, crypto, real estate, that's why I started this conversation with like, all right, what can Bitcoin do for me? I missed it. I'm sorry I wasn't there in 2012 with VITALY doing the Bitcoin mining, but I missed it. So at 30K, what return do I get? If you guys can't tell me I get a decent return compared to SoFi, which is so much more easier for me to sleep at night knowing Noto has my money,
No.
then I'm investing in
Well,
SoFi.
once again,
We've said it before.
once again.
You're comparing a stock to a currency in the
Because
same way.
it's an
Wait.
asset.
Please
It's
don't
an
interrupt me.
asset.
Please
It's an
don't
investment
interrupt.
asset.
Please don't interrupt me. But what I'm saying is, you could make the same argument. You know what? Take your entire portfolio, liquidate that shit, and buy a house. Okay, buy a house, because that house will be a safer store of value, and if you rent it out, it'll generate more money than any dividend. But like, we're not making
that's
that
a fine
case.
argument. That's not a bad thing.
Right, but that's the case that you're making right now. That's the case that you're making. You're making it seem like buying SoFi is the same as buying Bitcoin. It's not.
It is, because I care about returns. That's all I care
but
about.
it's the same. But it's not.
No. If you only care about returns, you just buy DNA and you wait for the 100x.
No,
So
but
do you
like,
see
you don't
the
have to be
comment
stupid
of
about it. You don't have to
primordial
be
light?
irresponsible about it. But like, if I want a 3x on SoFi from 8 to 24 versus a 30,000 to 100,000, do I think SoFi can grow? Do I see their ads every day on Instagram? Do I have some more conviction? Yes. And so if you have more conviction in Bitcoin because you watch Michael Saylor, then invest in Bitcoin. But don't tell me you have to hold it because of hype.
What I'll say is this. Okay, there are a lot of really smart people with a ton of fucking money, and you're seeing just like the engine revving on just the news of what we saw today. There's a ton of money, whether it's hedge funds, individual investors, large shareholders, or just people with a high net worth that are waiting to have an asset like this. This regulation clears the way for them to allocate more than 1% of, which is what's typically recommended, of their portfolio to these things. And let's not forget that Bitcoin is a worldwide asset. It's a worldwide asset. You have access to all the billions of people on the planet can all buy this thing in every one of their local currencies. You talk about like TAM, right? Even though it's not a stock, TAM, the addressable market of Bitcoin, is everyone on the entire planet. And we've already seen some governments transfer over to Bitcoin as their currency. What I'm saying is, the price that you're seeing right now, it seems like, oh man, it's so high. It's $27,000. This is with such a relatively small percentage of people actually investing in it, and with a tremendous negative sentiment against it, and tremendous regulatory hurdles. We're starting to see a bit of that be cleared. And ask yourself, why would BlackRock want to create a spot ETF? Why do so many people want to create a spot ETF on this? If it's everything that you said, if fiat currency is the better way to go, they own 5 to 10, they own 20%. They own 20. No, but they don't want to speculate. They want guarantees, because that's why they own 20% of the entire stock market. They want to win no matter who wins. And that's why they try to force companies to do what they want to do, because they want to guarantee their wins. So why would they even fuck with this little asset if it wasn't what VITALY and I and Tannor are saying it is?
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so let's say, obviously it's a worst case scenario. The dollar inflates. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But just to be even a safe investor and to be completely diversified, just like you diversify in all sectors, right? Equities, like I keep going back to real estate. Crypto is going to be a real sector. We see that happening.
100%. Yep.
It seems just like people should put 1%, which is almost nothing. It's just like if anyone.
I agree.
1%,
I said I'll do that. You already won me there. I'll do that.
Yeah. So that was always my point, that everybody who should seriously think about this. And the good thing is, we can do it. This is actually really important. We can do this before the hedge funds are allowed to do this. Just remember that. They're not allowed to put money in until it's regulated. I know we're taking a bigger risk in that case, but
I'm actually not excited.
But they're waiting. They are waiting to pile in. They are waiting to pile in, because then they can offer this as a legitimate place to store some of their clients' money in something that is not inflatable, that doesn't have a CEO, that's not going to have that. Bitcoin's not going to go on Twitter and start saying some right-wing shit. You know what I mean? It trades all over the world, borderless. If you want to move $10 million in gold, you need a boat. You want to move 10 million in Bitcoin, you need a USB drive. There's so many use cases for this. It can be mined anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, it can be mined. Right. As a matter of fact, you're probably better off mining this in places like where it's freezing cold, right? And say even in Antarctica. Why? Because the miners generate a lot of heat, and so there's so many use cases for this thing.
I'll point out another use case for Amit. Okay, when you steal all our money from Odia, the best way to do it is through Bitcoin.
Well,
yeah, I mean, look,
transfer it to crypto, transfer it to something like a private coin. Shuffle it all up, and you've washed all the money and you're gone.
And actually, Rango brought up some really good points. I don't know if you've seen it. He said there is a lot of demand, even on the institutional side. What you saw in 2020 as it ramped up from basically 15,000, blew past the previous all-time high and went straight to 70,000. Why? Because there is a ton of demand. That wasn't retail. Those were institutional investors. And S&P 500 companies are always looking for a place to park their cash that they can make a better return than the rate of inflation. What better than an asset class that doesn't inflate? And he's saying, and Rango was saying there's so much demand, and he's saying people want to buy this in their 401ks. That's effectively the same as burning the Bitcoin. If you know that it's locked in for 30, 40, 50 years, that's the same as burning it. It's not going to be sold for 20, 30, 40 years, depending on when people buy it. Once you start getting access to that and people can start putting it in these long-term holdings that are legally bound to be long-term holdings, I mean, the price of this is going to be ridiculous. This is like the last chance,
And by the way, in Wealthfront, I don't know how other people do it, but Wealthfront now has a thing that they just allocate 10% if you want to crypto, to like GBTC and all that.
Right.
So I just deposit there every month for the last couple of years, and they just do whatever they got to do. You don't even got to pay attention to it. It's so little. It doesn't mean anything. And I think that's the way to do it for you, Amit. Just do some sort of account like that where it's just part of a portfolio.
So I wanted to say a couple of things. One was someone said it in the chat. It's not necessarily should be looked at as an investment, more of a store of wealth. It's very similar to gold, but like Carlos said, it's much more expensive to service gold. And for example, Amit, do you know why gold was chosen as being that store of wealth across the world rather than any other metal?
No.
It's because you could drop it to the bottom of the ocean. You could throw it up. You could smash it. You could do whatever you want with it. At the end of the day, there's still going to be that much gold on Earth, right? It does not tarnish. And that's sort of the similarly exciting thing about Bitcoin is that there is so much supply. In fact, if anything, gold is a little bit more scary because they could find a massive
They could find a massive gold deposit somewhere, and then the value of gold plummets overnight. But we already know. We know the exact date that the final Bitcoin will be mined. You already know it. It's like 21.
It's just math.
You just know, right? It's just math, and we already know it. And what happens as this thing starts to grow in market cap? Remember, there's no the idea of share dilution. It can't happen. You cannot create more Bitcoin. And so what does that mean? As the money piles in, it's divided. It's just basically divided over the existing supply. And we already know that, say, 4 million Bitcoins are essentially gone. There's a really, really small finite supply of this asset class.
I mean, how would you feel about missing this? If it does 10-20x, like how would you feel about it?
I don't care. Like I just
that's a big deal if you don't care. Like
because I don't think that 10-20x is going to happen in the time frame I think it might happen over 30 years. I don't think $1 million bucks. I don't think that $1 million is happening.
Can you bring up the rainbow chart, Vitaly, just to get an idea of the range? Bring up that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna bring up at that point though. This idea of when it's going to happen is just speculation, and how would any of us know? You know what I mean? Here's one thing before we talk about this. This is also the easiest time ever, and it's only going to get easier to get into these assets.
Right.
Like, to the people who got in at 2013, that was a miracle product that they were doing. That was crazy that they were even able to, buy Bitcoin back then. It was so incredibly hard.
It was hard. You had to move your money, had to wait a few days. And it was kind of shady the way that you had
all
to
the
do
exchanges were super weird.
Right. And to Tanner's point, if it becomes something that's super easy, now you can buy it on Robinhood, you can buy it on PayPal, you can buy it on SoFi. It failed. The BTC rewards card failed, but that's another way that people can incentivize you, give you your cash back in Bitcoin. There's so many ways that they can incentivize you to purchase this asset where you might not even know.
Institutions had a really, really hard time buying Bitcoin. And now with things like, Coinbase Prime or BlackRock Aladdin, these sorts of things, makes it so incredibly easy for big money, smart money to get in whenever there is a return, in these massive spikes. Go ahead. Talk about this.
Look at the rainbow chart. Dex is making fun of me in the chat. He's saying Kamlos always says bring up the rainbow chart, because look at the rainbow chart. Like, are you kidding me? If you don't, I don't know if you know what this is, Amit, but Vitaly will explain it to you.
Does it have to do with Pride Month or?
Yeah.
Yes.
So look. Obviously, there's a little bit of voodoo here, but it's been a couple
times because I'm pretty sure we broke under this.
But this is the this is the logarithm. This is the overall logarithmic progression.
The Bitcoin price action, right? Exactly.
Right. Price action over over the length of time that it's-
LGBTC.
But see, when I look at this, I can look at Tesla stock and I'd be like, well, yeah, if I bought Tesla in 2010, I'd be up so much.
No,
on
no,
Nvidia.
you know why? No,
And
you know
Bitcoin
why?
is kind of
No.
So I do want to say one word at least. Okay, so if anybody actually believes in this chart, there's a point to buy Bitcoin, and it's been accurate for a long time, for a decade or so, 13 years maybe. At this point, you are close to like basically a screaming fire sale. That's what this chart says. It's in the buy zone. And if you believe that this chart one day will reach back to the oversold territory, we're still talking about it should be 100 to 200 grand back to oversold. So
Well, from the current levels now, but the thing is, at the further you go out, basically, the further you go out, there's always more. With Bitcoin, there's always more buyers than sellers. Remember that. There's always going to be more potential buyers than sellers of the asset class. And what the halvings do is the ones that have to sell, meaning the miners, are incentivized not to sell at a certain point within every 4 years for at least a year and a half or so before, because of the fact that the halving event is going to happen. This is what's brilliant about Bitcoin as an asset class, is that it builds in these sort of volatile price movements, it just in the mining of it itself. Whereas gold, you don't have that. Or
Carlos,
even
this just looks like a
gold.
chart that says buy the dip, like any stock chart.
It's
When it
not.
goes down, you
But
buy
it's
the
never
dip.
been broken.
How is this not just buy?
Because this is the logarithmic progression of that most
You
asset
just say a
classes
buy
will.
the dip stock chart is
hold on.
logarithmic expression.
No. What you're doing is you're acting like the 25-year-old we make fun of you for being sometimes.
no,
No, but
you brought
on
up
some
your
real
age.
shit, Carlos. I'm not even trying to be funny.
I'll
The
show
stock
you
just
something.
goes
Hold
down.
on.
People
Hold on,
buy
hold
it
on.
when it goes down. How is that not buying the dip?
Because it's different. It's different. Bitcoin does not have quarterly returns. It does not have price to sales. Does not have a PE. This is about adaptation. This is more following like the S curve of typical adaptation.
So, well, I want to show you this. You're saying, okay, it's just a chart, big deal. Okay, this is 13 years of history for an asset class, right? So for Bitcoin, that's why it matters. Let me just bring up another chart just to put it to equities here.
You can. I'll share that chart, but again, Carlos, I still
Hold
don't
on, hold on.
understand. It's a chart. It
I
goes
just wanna
down.
show
I don't
you
care if
this.
It doesn't have a price to
Hold
sales.
on, I just want to show you this.
When something goes down, you buy it because it's cheaper. It goes
Okay,
up. Like,
but again, what you're thinking.
Hold on, can you take a look at
you're
this?
thinking of it as a stock, dude. That's not talk about.
Well,
it.
I
think of
do
as
wanna
an
relate it
asset,
to-
not a stock, an asset.
Yeah,
Hold
but
on,
an
I want-
asset class are different.
guys,
Or
I want to
currencies.
relate it to Amazon. If once again, charts do matter because these growth companies are similar to Bitcoin, actually. So they do follow some trends. That does happen. If you look at Amazon on the monthly chart, if people actually paid attention to it, you would know when to buy Amazon. It's not even that difficult. Amazon has been in a long bull trend since what year is that? 2001. It's been in this massive trend. So my point is not about Amazon in per se, but if you basically look at Bitcoin, it's also in another trend. It's important to follow these trends. And that trend is saying, hey, this is cheap right now. Okay.
Right.
Well,
There's
wait,
a
but
dip.
the other part of
Went
it.
from 70 to 30.
Wait. But the other part of this equation is what Richie Mello is saying at 458, because the supply of Bitcoin declines every run. Like, whereas any stock at any point, they can dilute you, they can print more shares and dilute the overall existing supply. It doesn't happen with Bitcoin. So we are running out of Bitcoin. And as you run out of Bitcoin and less get introduced, like, you have to understand from the point of the halving, like right now we have a steady supply. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's 3 Bitcoins that are mined every 10 minutes for a 24-hour period. So you can calculate how many new Bitcoins are coming in. That is actually diluting the existing supply, right? So every 10 minutes, three Bitcoins are generated by the network and paid out to the miners proportionally based on the amount of work that they did. What's going to happen at the halving is instead of 3 Bitcoins every 10 minutes coming in, the rate of dilution.
Take a guess. How many?
1.5.
Yeah, but Carlos, can't a company buy back their shares as well?
No.
The chat is saying.
A company
I mean, it's
can
the
do-
same concept.
Wait.
It's just an asset.
But
You're trying to act like the
wait.
mining is so unique. It's just like buying back
it's
shares.
not.
at the end of the day.
They're the same thing in terms of the end result.
First
but
of all,
this
both are
is-
good to invest in. I don't know
it's
what Carlos,
programmed-
you agree both are good to invest in. Okay.
I
so
agree
that-
that they're both being they're but I agree. Yes, they're both equally as good to invest in. You want to invest in companies and you want to invest in crypto. But the idea that the rate of dilution is planned and known is something that makes people
I
very
agree.
comfortable
I agree
in
with that.
buying.
I agree.
Because it's like someone said, if Carp told you, I'm going to dilute you 50% or whatever next quarter, everyone would sell Palantir.
Yes,
It would be
I
like,
agree.
I don't want you to do that to me. It's
Yeah.
the fact that you don't know is why, people hold on. They say, hey, maybe he won't do it, or maybe it won't be as much. But we know exactly what the rate of dilution is in Bitcoin right now. It's 3 Bitcoins every 10 minutes. When that goes down to 1.5 every 10 minutes, automatically we're being diluted by half. And then in 4 more years, it's going to be 0.75 Bitcoin. Do you understand that, like, the natural dilution of the asset is going to decrease to virtually nothing?
Yes. Yeah.
And
No,
that
that makes
means
sense. That makes
the
sense.
price has to go up in order for the miners to be incentivized to still mine Bitcoin.
Well,
And there's
that
other
doesn't
things.
that's not true. That's not necessarily true. It doesn't have to
what they
go
do
up
is-
because the miners don't have to be incentivized to do their job.
They lower the
can stop
difficulty,
mining.
Yes, right. They can't stop. They can stop mining, but they have.
And they do, by the way. That's the whole thing. When the prices crash, right? They do stop mining. They turn
Yeah, it
off
just
their
makes it
machines.
unaffordable.
Well, they do, and then what they do is they lower the difficulty, so you need less machines to
Well,
mine.
no.
They
As they
lower
leave
load.
the network, the difficulty adjusts itself. I forgot when every day or whatever it
Yeah.
adjusts.
Yeah, it's based on how many computers are trying to solve that problem.
That equation, exactly. So there's I don't know. There's so many positives, and just seeing.
Amit is on Pornhub, so don't worry about it.
And he's
message somebody.
No, he's on OnlyFans, and he's only accepting payment in crypto.
I'd rather invest in an OnlyFans girl who's popping
Oh
on
my
TikTok over Bitcoin. Bro.
Anyway,
can
like
tell.
I don't.
Every TikTok and get more subscriptions.
Okay, so I do want to answer this question because people are saying, "Hey, you guys bought in earlier, blah blah blah. It's 27K." So yeah,
no, they're right. You guys bought in very early.
very early, exactly. So, dude, you got to pay attention.
How do you know?
What can I say? So, but hold on. The point is that if this asset class is going to be real, it's smart to start DCAing a small amount. And I'm not saying go into 27K, all of it. That's crazy. I think Bitcoin is going down right now. If we're going to end this podcast, it's 8 o'clock. Bitcoin is probably going down. And this always happens before the halving, that we can have a 14,000 Bitcoin again and Ethereum cut to $500 or whatever. So this is your chance to DCA into it. You're never going to catch the bottom, by the way. I don't know how people think that they're going to catch the bottom. I've tried on Bitcoin and I think I failed. I think I got 4,000 and it hit 3,200 the last time it crashed. And Ethereum crashed to 80 and I got 100. So it was close to the bottom. Congratulations. But I still DCA'd all the way down to $100. So I think that's the best way to play crypto. You never go all in crypto. It's worse than going into a stock because it could always 50% on you in the next month. It absolutely can. But not to put in something while it's going down, assuming that the ETF is happening, assuming there's more adoption. It seems sort of lunacy, honestly, not to put in some tiny percentage.
I could put in a tiny percentage, but I'm doing it for the returns. I'm not doing it because I'm afraid of.
That's fine. Get the returns, man.
That's it. But that's been my whole point. Everyone's in the comments like hating, bro. If it gives me returns, then yeah, I'll put some money in there. But I'm not holding it because I'm obsessed with this hyperinflation theory that Michael Saylor's obsessed with. Like, and you can be obsessed with it. You can care about that. But I think I'll be long dead before that happens. And so that's why.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
You agree that he'll be long dead? I don't think he'll be long dead before that.
You think in my lifetime we're gonna have hyperinflation in the United States?
No, I don't. Well, it depends on what you mean by hyperinflation. Are we going to be like
15%, 20%? I feel like that's reasonable hyperinflation because we were at 10% in June. I don't think in my life. I'm 25. I'll probably live to be 150. No, I'm done. I'll probably live to be like 80 years old, right? So we got 6 more years left.
The thing is, this is why it's so crazy. It's very hard to speculate because with something like Bitcoin, you know what the inflation rate is. We know what it is. It's 3 Bitcoins every 10 minutes. We don't know what the government's going to do, right? If there is another event, like I'm sure you've been hearing on social media, we're supposed to be going into lockdowns in another 3 weeks, and who knows what's going to happen then? We go on another bunch of lockdowns. Maybe they're going to go and print a bunch more money. We don't.
You're right.
Don't know.
That could happen.
And here's the thing: if that happens, here's the thing, Amit. If that happens, and they print another $8 trillion,
then we're fucked. I agree with you.
You understand what starts to happen? I mean, when I was put it like this: when I was just out of college, starting my business with some buddies of mine, it's like 2000 or 2001, pre 9/11. The U.S. I think the total U.S. debt was $1 trillion, and we would look at that and be like, $1 trillion, what? Like $1 trillion. We were like, what? We're at $32 trillion right now of debt. Now, granted, a lot of that's been in the last couple of years, but that is.
And everybody's afraid. I just don't know if that's a real problem.
That's not a real problem either.
At a certain point, we're gonna default. There's no way.
No. The problem is if America defaults, everybody defaults.
I agree with
you. Wait, but what I think is what
I'll be dead. I'm not going to worry about this.
They'll find a way of rolling it over into something else before.
Print more money.
By the way, Carlos, if you're right, Bitcoin's not going to save us. Okay, the world is coming to an end. It's just not going to save us.
That's a great point. That is a phenomenal. Why would that's the best point I've heard all night.
Of course,
Bitcoin's not going to save us if we're defaulting on our debt. No way in hell.
No,
if,
but
if the
that's
American
something-
system is collapsing and the army cannot contain all the people who are going to try to kill us at that point, Bitcoin's not going to help us.
It depends on where the majority.
Palantir might.
that is so funny.
Palantir might.
Palantir will save us.
Harshman will be in a space station somewhere. He'll be gone.
Do we have a couple more minutes or no?
Vitaly, if you gotta leave, I know you gotta dip.
No,
so you
no,
can get
go
out.
ahead. I actually got it.
Okay,
Okay,
real quick
because
before we do a couple
Vitaly, you
minutes,
just said that crazy thing
real
that
quick,
Amit
Tanner,
said.
let me just do these super chats real quick. Garcia, Bitcoin miners. I think Vitaly and Carlos talked about that, so we definitely had that discussion.
Yeah.
Heinzie Ketchup, Amit, what's the hyperinflation in California? $2.5 million for 3-bedroom, 2 baths. That was $500K in 2002. That's because it's California. I don't think that's hyperinflation.
Oh, but you always have a fucking. You always have.
What
a
do you mean?
reason why it's
Reason?
not
In Alabama, you're not gonna pay 2.5
my
million. It's
God. Oh my
California. Like,
God.
you know this. You're from California.
Oh my god.
Okay, go ahead, Tanner.
It's not hyperinflation though.
No, I just wanted to say, okay, so a couple things, or at least these are not facts. These are my thoughts. I just wanted to clear that up. One, I don't think the U.S., as long as they have a money printer, ever really needs to worry about default. You can always print more. A $32 trillion issue doesn't look that bad whenever you can create $32 trillion. Okay. Even in the essence that, let's say we do lose our military standing, which Amit and I have gone back arguing back and forth that hyperinflation means people are going to go to war. I just heard Vitaly say that as well. Why would you ever think that? That's not true at all.
No, I was going just way out there.
The countries that hyperinflate, they
that's
go
gonna
into
happen.
poverty. They don't go to war. Like look at Venezuela.
So
In
sure.
Venezuela, women take their currency and make bracelets out of it. They make bracelets out of it that they sell you for more than the actual value of.
You guys are missing Vitaly's point. Everyone
Yeah,
hates the
no,
United States, including China and Russia. So if our military collapses, our dollar collapses, there's a chance they try to invade us, which means we go into war.
I guarantee you,
I
the
just
Venezuelan
want to fix what I meant. It's not
Wait,
the
no, wait.
hyperinflation. It's the fact that if the United States dollar doesn't control the world,
Correct.
somebody else has to start controlling the world. That can lead to some problems, obviously.
Yeah,
we don't know
they
what those
can-
are.
They control the world
sanctions
because
on
of the
us.
size of their military, because they have the biggest stick, not because of a fiat currency. There's nothing backing that except for a big gun and bigger bullets.
Yeah.
So
That's what she said.
this is my opinion, by the way. That's all I'm saying. But if someone in
Yeah, look at that.
Venezuela, for example, okay, the Venezuelan people and the Argentinian people were much better off during this time of hyperinflation in Bitcoin, and that's a fact.
That's true.
And because it's a global currency. So the Venezuelan people and these sorts of people who are buying Bitcoin like crazy does not affect what the Chinese people or the Japanese people or the Russian people or the Canadian people are doing with their Bitcoin. So it's a way of buying a stable. I know it's not stable because it's a very volatile market right now, but as the markets mature, they get much more stable. And it is an inflation hedge, not for maybe the US dollar because it's so stable, but for other currencies that might even be more volatile than the one that Bitcoin actually is. So
I would argue, by the way, that it is pretty stable for one simple fact, because everybody shows so short-term focused. If you just closed your eyes and every 4 years you woke up around Bitcoin, you're always up.
Can you please share the screen? And I just want to. Can you please share?
Nobody's down from 4 years ago.
And I just want to make this other point. You're like, what happens if the U.S. hyperinflates, right? And what happens to the price of Bitcoin, whether or not Bitcoin can save you or not? That totally depends on what the allocation of the allocation is per country of Bitcoin. If the U.S. only owns 5% of all the Bitcoin, right, or the value of all the Bitcoin, and the rest of it's owned by the rest of the world, and our dollar collapses, Bitcoin would absolutely save you because the price of Bitcoin won't drop as much. If people in America own 40-50% of all the Bitcoin and our currency devalues, what are people going to do? They're going to sell their Bitcoin, which is going to affect the price. This is what happens when you sell a stock. If a major shareholder, 40% of the stock is one person and they sell it, yes, that's going to erode the value. But if the US does not become the primary holder of Bitcoin and you as a US citizen are holding it and the fiat currency collapses, Bitcoin will absolutely save you. And here's a great chart that Michael Saylor posted. There is no second best financial asset, Bitcoin. And I'll just make this chart bigger. Look at the asset class. Look at Bitcoin. Look at the returns. Cumulative 2011 to 2013 return. Look at this ridiculous number. It looks like a Windows key. 2011 to 2013 annualized return, 153%. Annualized return since inception. The Nasdaq 17%. 14% US growth. Just look at this. The large cap stocks. I mean, If you look at it over a long enough time frame, this is the highest return. Even at the bottom here, look at the highest return versus the lowest return at the bottom. Highest return in 2011, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is at the top of this list for most of the.
All I'll say is,
years
although
since
this is
2011.
impressive, the idea that this continues is
Oh,
left
come on, man.
to be
Come on.
known.
Come on.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of people whenever Bitcoin hit $100 saying that this was like
this was it.
oh, this was the guy that got it at
10,000, 20,000,
At a-
60,000.
The first time I ever had heard of Bitcoin, I think it was $126, and I didn't know what it was. And then the first time I did know what it was, I thought it was overvalued, and it was like $4,000.
Right.
And that's when I really knew what it was, and I still didn't buy it because I went, you know what? It's overvalued. Because
I've missed the run. I missed it from 100 to 4,000. Why would I dump my money in it right now? Why would I do that? There's a reason why in 2020, when I started seeing this and started hearing about the money printing, knowing that this time was coming, I was actually looking for a video that VITALY and I did in 2020 about this, discussing this, where it's like, okay, they're about to print X trillions of freaking dollars. There's going to be a massive inflationary pressure put on the dollar. Here's this thing that just have the price is $3,000-$4,000 or hovering around $8,000, and we have 2 or 3 cycles of history. We know what the asset can do. Just started really researching it, and it just made a lot of sense. And
Carlos, there's 2 things that also happened in 2020. Everyone had stimulus money to buy speculative things like Bitcoin, and interest rates were 0, so NFTs were also worth $5 million. But
you know what?
I don't know if that correlation is as black and white.
But I'll tell you, you don't need stimulus money if you have institutional money. There's no amount of money they can.
That's a different argument than 2020.
There is no amount of money that they can dump onto retail that will come close to 1% of like Apple's free cash flow, Amazon's free cash flow, Meta's free cash flow, Tesla, SpaceX. Just take 1% of all their free cash flow and put it into Bitcoin. It's $400,000 overnight. These companies have a shit.
Wait, hold on. You think institutions make Bitcoin $400,000 overnight?
Kathy Woods had a statistic where if all of the S&P,
Kathy Woods thinks Zoom's going to 1,500.
This is not thinking. This is
that's
about
why I
doing
bought
the math.
Zoom today.
This is about doing the math. This is about doing the math. If all the S&P companies, and this was in 2020, whatever it was, put the 1% of their free cash flow into Bitcoin, just 1% of all the free cash flow that they have on their balance sheet currently into Bitcoin, the price goes to $400,000 overnight. If they put 10%, and this again, these are 2020 levels. If they put 10% of their available cash into Bitcoin, it's $1 million. One Bitcoin is $1 million. So
I mean, I think me and Carlos are going to be good at 400,000.
I'll be so fine in 400,000.
We'll talk about this tomorrow.
I just want to have the balls to hold it until then. You know.
Yeah, that's exciting.
I'll be out at 150 grand for sure.
I think so. Around 150, I think I'm out.
I'm out.
All right, Tanner's.
The last thing I'll say is Amit can have my coins at 150 grand.
Oh yeah, you'll dump them on me.
Start DCing.
Tanner is going to be with us tomorrow and Thursday because he loves us so much.
Thanks for filling in, man. Seriously.
Please make sure his YouTube and Twitter is in the description. We're going to give him the last word. I have no idea what he's going to say is the last word, but Chris gets the last word, so he'll get the last word. Follow him on Twitter and YouTube. He has a great fintech channel. Much more better at talking about SoFi, PayPal, crypto. We didn't even get you. Tomorrow we'll talk about PayPal. So definitely make sure you follow him. Okay, last word, Tanner.
I absolutely love this finance community. I watch you guys a lot, even, like especially hearing Chris's comments. He's not a perma bull, but he does bring up a lot of great issues that I love listening to. You guys are great. I love this community. Love everything that everyone's doing on X, on YouTube. And it's just to, empower everyone. And I don't think that anyone really sort of brings anyone down. I think Amit said that before. And I'm happy to be a part of it, guys. You guys are freaking awesome. And hopefully we can meet up in Vegas.
Congratulations on your house, man.
Congrats on the house. And real quick, I was going to say this in the beginning.
You're a nicer Chris.
You're a much nicer Chris. I forgot to say this in the beginning. You know how CNBC, like today, Andrew Ross Sorkin couldn't be on. So they had some other random dude who's not as important as Andrew Ross Sorkin come on, just like mix it up. I feel like that's what we all do. Like sometimes I go on your show, you're on Finance Junkie sometimes. I'll do Stock Tank. Like this YouTube community, we all go back and forth subbing in for each other. It's like we're our own version of CNBC.
Bro, wait till the bull markets. Just wait till people actually have money. Wait till we're actually back to the bull market. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, and SoFi might moon way quicker than Palantir, and then Tanner's channel is going to go whoop. That happens, so.
All right, I got to check out.
Man, appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.